Welcome to the Binge Breakers podcast. I'm Jacqueline. I am here to teach you how I overcame bulimia and my binge eating disorder, and how you can too. Through simple steps of mind management, repairing your relationship with yourself, understanding your habits, and intuitive eating.
Disclaimer, this recording is not intended to be used as medical advice, nor is it advice from a doctor. I am a coach, a recovery coach, and I offer advice from my own experience and my clients. But please, if you think you are in need of medical help, seek it immediately. We'll also be talking about subjects such as binging and purging, depression, and other sensitive topics. So if those trigger you, please listen at your own discretion. Hey, podcast listeners, I hope you guys are doing well today. If my voice sounds funny, it's because I'm sick. But we're going to carry on. I'm feeling a lot better today, so it's just remnants of that. Today, I want to review an example I went through with a private client who was really worried that they weren't going to be able to push through this time because they were thinking about all the different times that they failed before and how they weren't able to keep going. And so what makes this time any different? And if you've ever felt that way before, this podcast episode will help you. So I'm going to go over that in a bit. But I did want to say, for those guys following along with my life and the podcast and all that sort of stuff, I will be moving to Mexico next week. So I'm packing up all my stuff. I ended up having strep throat this week, which was pretty awful, and wasn't sure I was going to be able to move out of my apartment with feeling terrible, but I've got antibiotics now on my side, and I'm feeling a lot better. But I'm taking a road trip back home this weekend to just drop off my car and stuff, and then I fly to Mexico out of Chicago Monday, and then I'll be there for a month, maybe longer, really trying to embrace the digital nomad life now that I have the opportunity to do that. And it's bittersweet. It's sad in a lot of ways because I have friends here and I have a life here, and I just don't know exactly when I'm coming back and all those things. But I do know that I feel like I need to have this adventure, and I need to leave Denver and Colorado to decide if I really want to come back, because it was never necessarily my first choice to come here. But I came here for someone else, and that's fine. And it's offered me so many things. But I really feel like I need to leave and go on this adventure to know if it's what I want, and to have experiences to understand whatever my next steps are. So if you're in a place in your life where you're not really sure what your next steps are, you feel a little bit bored or complacent in your life, maybe it's your calling to go on your own adventure, go do something that's completely unexpected. Every time I tell someone I'm going to Mexico, I'm moving there for a little bit, and I'm basically like homeless, like I don't have a lease starting June 1st, all those things. Sometimes I get really cool reactions, but a lot of times, especially adults, they just look at me like I'm crazy. But I'm following the advice I got a while ago, which is let yourself be a mess and just kind of like lean into whatever the world is showing you. And I think that, judgment aside, it's going to be good. So don't worry about what anyone else thinks and follow what your heart is telling you to do. All right, on to the episode. So this client I was talking with, she has been making a lot of progress lately, trying very hard not to go back to behaviors, all those things. And then this week, on top of being sick, also had a very, what I'd call light lapse or light relapse, where she was purging her dinners mainly. And she was just feeling so frustrated with it and so upset with herself that it was happening. And I asked her what was going on, and she said, I failed so many times before. I've gotten to this point so many times before, and I've turned back. I haven't been able to push through. And I think when people say that, they're really worried. They're using all the evidence of their history against themselves, and they're like, there's no way this time is going to be different. What's really important to do during those moments is to ask yourself, why didn't you push through in those moments? Not in a judgmental way, not in an accusatory way, but just a genuinely curious, like, okay, if this is true, if you've always failed during those times, why do you think that is? And this is where you can use your failures as learning moments. And so I asked my client this. I said, hey, why do you think you didn't push through during those times? What was the reason? She said it was because she didn't have support. And she didn't necessarily recognize what she needed to know now, which is that if she goes back to her eating disorder, it will be very dire. It will not be very good, and it will not offer her what she's actually wanting, and it'll keep her life extremely small. And she needed those reminders from outside support, which she has now. And I also think back to all the times that I failed with my own bulimia recovery, because there was a time where, and then there was many times where I tried to recover and I failed, but then the time where I thought I was recovered and then I went back to it, and I was technically recovered during that time, but I would maybe call it, I hate the term, like a pseudo recovery or something like that. But I thought during that time we're good. And the reason that I didn't push through is because I really hadn't resolved a lot of issues, things that were causing my eating disorder, things that were keeping me in this controlled section of food, that sort of stuff. And I didn't really realize how small my world had become because of it. And I needed to know that there was a much bigger world out there in order to fully recover. I told my client this, and I'll tell you guys this. I have this big life journal. If you are on my Instagram, you've probably seen it. But I started it when I went to England, and my mom gave it to me. It's this leather-bound journal, and I've written in it. I wrote about all my travels and stuff. I've drawn in it, but I've also put tons of scraps and like postcards and little fragments of paper and sometimes like necklaces or like bits and bobs that I've been able to tape in there from my journeys and travels. Like there's tickets, there's train tickets and flight tickets and postcards and weird drawings that I've made and that sort of stuff, and like photos. My friend the other day took some Polaroids of a party I was at, so I posted those in there, like that sort of stuff. But, so it's like a really thick journal. There's lots of texture to it, and it doesn't really even close anymore because there's so much in there. But I was looking at it this morning, and I noticed that there's a section in there where it's just writing. Like there's not a whole lot of, there's nothing posted in it. There's no tickets or anything like that. And I looked through that writing, and what it was is that, it was the time where I was pretty sick and I was very deeply in my eating disorder, and most of the logs in that section are just me day in and day out talking about my weight, how I didn't meet my weight in that morning. And of course there's no mention of bulimia. I think it's really interesting that I didn't even talk about the fact that I was binge eating purging, but that there's still this like, today I woke up and I didn't meet my way in, or today I did meet my way in, and here's what we need to do today to make sure that we keep our weight at this bay. And it's just so sad looking at it. And like once I recovered, my life got a lot bigger, right? And there's so many more things I posted in the journal and that sort of stuff. And then now this year that I've been out of, I've been single and out of, not so good of a situation, the journal has gotten even more loud and wild, and there's a lot more stuff posted in there and things like that. So just, I don't know, I think what I needed, why I failed so many times before, is that I didn't realize how small and isolated bulimia was keeping me, and I didn't realize what else was out there, and I needed to just keep pushing through and keep going, and I needed to accept myself at what was at the time a higher weight for me, and I needed to figure out how to have a personality outside of food and weight and fitness. And this client too, she's facing gaining weight and her body changing and being uncomfortable. And she needs to know that on the other side of that is so much freedom and confidence and a different identity and a fuller, bigger life. And she needs to keep going through that and keep pushing through and know that this is not for her long term. So I would offer to you, what is it that made you fail before? And don't just toss it up to because you're a failure. That's a lame answer. That's not a very constructive thinking answer. Think harder. Like, what is it that you think made you fail? What did you not have during that time? What was the thoughts behind it? What were the thoughts behind it? What were the feelings? What do you think did you in? And then think back to, if you could go back to your past, like a ghost or something like that, and give yourself what you needed during that time to push through. What do you think it would have been? What do you think you needed to hear? What do you think you needed to know? What do you think you needed to have in order to recover during that time? And then think back to that, and then think about now. And what is it that you could give yourself now that you have that knowledge? What do you need to push through? It's available to you now. And I think for a lot of people, it's just they need to hear that it's going to be okay, that it's going to get better, and that what they're doing, all the effort they're going through is not in vain, that it is going to pay off. And that's a lot of times what we do with my group and with my private coaching. The group that I offer, it is, of course, like there's a lot of practical tools in it. And like we just went over this week, hunger and fullness and satiety cues, and what is overeating, what is binging, that sort of stuff. But a big part of the group is that people show up to the calls and they talk back and forth like humans, and they offer each other validation in the group, like the live calls, and then in the WhatsApp group as well. So maybe it's support that you needed, but like offer yourself something that you think you would have needed then, and do it for yourself now. Show up differently now. You can do this. But I think it's oftentimes people just need to hear that it's going to be okay. And that's what I try to offer people, and that's what you can offer to yourself today. All right, that's all I have for you. With the move and everything, it's just going to be a small podcast, but that's okay. I hope that it gave you what you needed. If you are interested in joining my next group coaching program, that starts next week. It's an 8-week program. If you join before June 4th, we start next Tuesday, June 4th, obviously. And it's a small group coaching program. If spaces are still available, you should be able to just purchase and join directly from my website. But we meet twice a week. It's a small, intimate, personal group coaching program. You get an online course with it, and weekly check-ins from me. So even though it's a group, I'll email you privately every Thursday to see how you're doing. And you email me back, and then I give you feedback based on that in a voice note or just a long written form email. And then you get access to a private Facebook group that has all past members in it, and then current members, the ones that have decided to join. It's just a really interactive place full of people who get it. So if you feel like you need that for your recovery, it's a pretty affordable group coaching program. Like, it's super cheap compared to all the other group coaching programs. There it's $6.99 to join, which is less than $100 per week, less than a binge per week, so if you're interested in joining that, you feel like it's time to take the next step, and you really need help in your own recovery, highly recommend that you join this program. If not, I totally get it. Sometimes it's just not the right fit or the right time for people. Otherwise, I hope that you enjoyed this. I'm feeling really nostalgic and excited and nervous and sad all at the same time this week. So I appreciate you being patient with me, just having a small episode, but I hope that it made an impact all the same. Never give up on yourself. Bye.